All I want now is to go back to my unsettled, troubled, modest, confusing, peaceful previous life.
A horizontal color photo. A sunny day. On a green lawn, there is a clumsy wooden gazebo that looks like a square room without a front wall. It has a wavy slate roof, and a faded bedspread with flowers hangs inside on its back wall. In the middle of the gazebo is a table made of a trunk and a piece of plywood on top. Smiling Andrew sits on a bench at it, a muscular man of about 45 with rectangular glasses. He is wearing a black t-shirt, gray pants, and woven brown sandals. He has short dark hair with some gray strands, a square face, and gray eyes. There is a corked bottle of cognac on the table in front of him.
But now, on the 13th day of the war, I realized that disaster, famine, mass deaths, and catastrophe were an integral part of my previous peaceful life.
An old square photo in brown. A boy of about 3 years old stands in a village yard looking at a rooster walking in front of him. He's wearing a white t-shirt, black shorts, and sandals. Clothes and bedding dry on a rope and on a wooden fence nearby.
So why do I call it peaceful? From habit. It was never either peaceful or calm.
A horizontal negative. Negative is a photo with distorted colors, in which black turns white, blue turns yellow, green turns purple, and red turns blue, and vice versa. Andrei, wearing a white jacket and a cap, and a woman in a pink hooded jacket are walking past a building that looks like a small Soviet hospital. The man shows to the camera 2 pairs of newly bought women's socks. Both he and the woman are smiling. A square negative. A group of 3 people in the street takes a selfie in a mirror leaning against a house wall. In the middle is Andrei in a shirt and pants, and on either side are 2 women, one in a tunic and jeans, and the other in a long dress. Behind them is a building with a sign that reads Dublin Irish Pub. A horizontal negative. Andrei and 2 women stand in a room with black walls. Andrei, wearing a white t-shirt and pants, dances and smiles. One woman pulls down a projector screen and the other says something either to her or to Andrei. A horizontal negative. Andrei and a woman with shoulder-length white curls stand side by side on an evening street, smiling at a woman behind the frame. Only her hand is visible, holding a small blue object.
I was lucky to be born in 1978, during the most peaceful and tranquil period of my country's existence.
A vertical negative. The photo was taken in a room on the first floor. There are a laptop and some papers on the windowsill. A woman stands outside working at the laptop through the open window. She is wearing glasses and a blue t-shirt. Her dark hair is tied in a bun. A vertical negative. A filter has been applied to the photo, making it look toxic green. Andrei and a woman with a bowl cut sit in an old kitchen. The woman holds a cup of tea. Behind them stands another woman with short hair and a piece of food in her hands. All 3 of them smile. A vertical negative. A room with antique furniture and something like a high bunk bed with shelves. A thin, tall man in a shirt and jeans sits on a massive velvet chair talking to someone. His white hair is about 7 centimeters long. On the table in front of him are a bottle, a glass, 2 shot glasses, and a plate of fruit. In the lower corner of the photo, the knee of the man's interlocutor is visible. A horizontal negative. A party in a room of an old house with a tiled stove and double doors. A disco ball hangs in the high ceiling. 2 girls and a man, blurred, dance under it. A woman with shoulder-length white curls takes a picture or video of them.
For my first 12 years, I lived in relative prosperity, peace, and tranquility. Or so it seemed to me then.
An old horizontal black and white photo. A couch with a thin floral patterned bedspread stands against a wall with a carpet on it. 3 children are sitting on the couch. In the middle is Andrei, the youngest. He is about 2 years old. The boy holds a small book and looks at the camera. On one side of him is his sister, an older girl with a short bob. She looks down, folding her hands over her stomach. On the other side, Andrei's brother is hugging him, a boy of about 9 in a white shirt and black pants. He holds a toy dump truck in his left hand.
I lived quietly, went to kindergarten, then to schools, ate bagels, drank kefir.
An old horizontal black and white photo. A family of 4 is posing in the forest. In the middle is Andrei's mother, a smiling young woman with a short haircut. She is wearing a black knee-length dress and a light cardigan. In front of his mother is a little, also smiling Andrei, wearing dark sweater, pants, and a light beret sideways. On both sides of them is a serious-looking older couple, a woman in white headscarf and dark dress, and a dark-haired man in a white shirt and trousers with a belt.
Received chocolates at holidays, signed greeting cards to relatives, studied primers and political pamphlets, and read Charles Dickens and Jules Verne.
An old horizontal black and white photo. A sunny day. 4 people are posing in the yard of a small whitewashed house near a wooden fence. In the middle is a smiling young woman with a voluminous bob curled with hair rollers. She is wearing a summer white shirt and a long floral skirt. In front of her stands Andre, about 6 years old, with his hands behind his back and a smile on his face. He is wearing glasses, a white t-shirt with inscriptions, and black pants. To the left is a tall young man in a knitted white t-shirt and light pants. He is looking down with his fingers to his mouth. On the right, a woman with short black curls and a speckled dress is laughing. She is wearing sunglasses and a watch on a thin black strap while also carrying a white handbag.
I was often afraid that the Americans would drop an atomic bomb on us. Sometimes, I would wake up in a cold sweat after hearing the sound of a plane at night.
A horizontal negative. Near the lawn at the intersection of 2 streets is a fountain shaped like a dandelion in a kind of claw with 3 teeth. There are benches in front of the fountain, one of which is occupied by an older woman in a floral dress and the other by a young couple. Behind the fountain, a fence made of stone and wrought iron bars towers over the street. People are walking along it dressed in spring clothes.
It was only later when I read my mother's diary after her death that I realized that peace and tranquility existed only in my childhood mind.
An old black and white video shot in what looks like a laboratory. 2 young women in white coats and caps are bending over some equipment out of frame.
For my mother, it was a life full of sorrow, stress, and daily survival.
A horizontal negative. A clear river stretches under a cloudy sky, its surface rippled. The shore, which can be seen in the distance, is densely covered with pine trees.
But there was someone in our family who, like me, enjoyed peace and tranquility then. That was my grandmother, who had lived all her life in the village. She had survived the Holodomor, the Nazis, Soviet collective farm, slavery.
A horizontal negative. An old wooden hut hides at the edge of a pine forest. It has 1 low floor and an attic under a triangular roof. There are 2 sheds next to the hut.
And from 1978 to 1990, she was finally able to grow potatoes in peace.
A vertical color photo. A sunny day. On a green lawn, there's an old wooden hut, almost the same as in the previous picture. Low trees and bushes grow around it. Another similar house can be seen in the distance.
So, I grew up with a sense of peace and tranquility. Now I understand how naive this feeling was. A mistake being born in a short period of peace and tranquility. In the area where I was born, no one ever gave anyone the right to peace and quiet.
An old horizontal photo in brown. Shevchenko Avenue in Lviv. People in dark jackets and hats are walking on the sidewalk, wet with rain. On both sides are rows of old houses with various establishments on the ground floors. A small queue stretches to the pharmacy on the corner of one of them. On the wall of the same building hangs a painted poster of the movie Miro. A part of the sign reading cinema is visible above it. In the distance, a concrete Soviet trade union building with the inscription, "Glory to the CPSU," on the roof looms over the street.
And we, Ukrainian children of the 1980s, no privileges or rights. None. Who gave them to us? No one.
The same picture but negative.
My mother was born in the remote village of Boisia, north of Ukraine, where Russian tanks are now breaking into Kiev from Belarus. All her ancestors lived there since ancient times.
An old horizontal photo. It is divided into 3 horizontal rectangular sections, each with its own color correction. In the middle section, the image has its original brownish tone, while at the top and bottom it is negative. In the picture, 2 women in dark coats pose near a wooden fence. On the left is Andre's mother, a young woman with long dark hair tucked behind her ears. She has a round face, straight light eyebrows, down-turned hooded eyes, and full, slightly smiling lips. The woman next to her is in her 60s. She has dark short hair with a perm and a similar face and eye shape. Her eyebrows are thin and high-arched. The woman looks into the lens somewhat gloomily. An old vertical negative close-up. Andre's young mother is posing in a room with a carpet on the wall. She is wearing a black sweatshirt with small round neckline. The woman has bright eyes and a slightly snub nose and a long center-parted bangs. She smiles slightly. The light falls as if she were standing by a window.
From time immemorial, a curse hung over our family. No one had a normal home of their own in which to live and earn a living. My great-grandmother, Katerina, spent her life saving money against the despotic will of her abusive husband. She eventually built her own home, but that drunken, abusive husband set it on fire and burned it down. So she packed up all her belongings and her children and went to live with relatives.
3 parts of an old black and white photo. A family feast. The table, covered with a white cloth, is full of all kinds of homemade dishes. On the benches on either side, cheerfully smiling relatives are crammed together, all of them older men and women in headscarves. Each has a glass of vodka in front of them. Behind the table, one can see a wall made of long logs and the tips of white towels or curtains hanging on it. 3 parts of an old black and white photo. An old woman stands outside a wooden wall. She is wearing a headscarf, a light shirt with sleeves rolled up to her elbows, and a black knee-length skirt. The woman looks gloomily at the camera, her posture straight. A girl of about 3 years old in a white dress sits a little further away. Behind her, laundry dries on the fence. A horizontal color photo. A small painting hangs in an oval frame on a wall painted light yellow. It depicts a young Ukrainian couple in front of a picturesque rural landscape. A smiling black-haired man hugs a long-haired girl who also smiles and shyly looks down. The man is dressed in a red vyshyvanka, green surwal, white zupon, and high fur hat. The girl wears a white shirt, a dark knee-length wrap skirt, and high boots. She also has a flower wreath with ribbons on her head and a multi-layered beaded necklace around her neck. Behind the lovers, a neat hut under a thatched roof is visible. A narrow path leads from it through an open gate to the riverbank. A willow tree bends over the water and a boat is left nearby. Flowers and lush trees are growing around, and the grass is long and green. The tip of a white crochet napkin is visible above the painting.
My grandmother was born in a small cottage along with several dozen other people. When she was 16, the Holodomor began. She and her siblings survived because their mother Katerina had a secret can of moonshine. She gave each of her children a spoonful of moonshine every day. So, their bellies did not swell from eating wild grass and bark like their neighbors' children. And so, they survived.
A horizontal color photo. A half-meter wide painting in a simple and wooden frame hangs on a light yellow wall. The painting depicts a girl and a boy whose eyes meet as they draw water from the well. The girl is dressed in a white vyshyvanka, a long red vest, and a green skirt. She also has a red wreath with ribbons on her head. The young man is wearing a red zupon, blue surwal, red boots, and high fur hat. Next to him, a brown horse with a white mane drinks from a trough near the well. Behind the wicker fences are 2 huts with red roofs. Flowers and trees grow lushly around them. Under the painting, an old black bedspread with a colorful floral ornament hangs on nails. A vertical color photo. A large poster with a printed painting hangs on a light yellow wall. In the painting, a blonde girl sits on a bench under a birch tree stroking a deer. She is dressed in a red ankle-length dress with short puffy sleeves and a high collar. There is a red headband on her long wavy hair, red shoes on her feet, and a bouquet of daisies on her lap. The girl's hand rests on the back of the deer that is tied to the bench with a red and green strap. A poppy flower is attached to the strap near the animal's neck. The deer looks trustingly into the girl's eyes while she smiles at it. Behind the 2 friends, the green forest is blooming. A horizontal color photo. A large painting in a shabby red wooden frame hangs on a light yellow wall. It depicts a building that looks like a mosque. It has tall lancet windows, ornate carvings on the walls, and a parapet on the roof, and a round dome with a spire. The mosque is surrounded by a neat garden, behind which stretches a lake with swans and white lilies. A low bridge with exquisite railings was built over the water. One side of it leads to the garden, and on the other side the steps go down to the water. A boat sails in the distance. It is dawn. 2 parts of a negative. Under the painting of a mosque, there are 2 small photos presumably from the 90s. They show different weddings. In the picture on the left, a young couple poses arm in arm. The bride holds flowers and is wearing a fluffy dress and a veil. The groom has a suit with a tie and a boutonniere on. In another photo, newlyweds stand side by side, looking at the camera. The woman in a long, narrow dress and a veil holds a bouquet. The woman has a striped tie and a kind of ribbon on his suit. Because the photo is negative, the dresses and veils of the brides are black, while the groom's suits are white.
When she turned 18, my grandma ran away from home and settled near a stone quarry to give herself some freedom. There, she fell in love with a train driver who drove the trains transporting the quarried stones to the east.
A horizontal portrait photo in brown from the early 20th century. A young boy and girl stand shoulder to shoulder. The girl has a round face and dark hair, put into 2 braids that are tied together at the back of her head. Her eyebrows are thin, and eyes and slightly smiling lips narrow. She is wearing a dress with a sharp white collar. Small earrings sparkle in her ears. The boy stands a little behind her. He has slicked back dark hair, thick eyebrows, large eyes, and protruding ears. Dressed in a suit with a tie, he looks seriously at the camera. The couple's faces and outfits are completed by a restorer. A horizontal color photo. A large painting in a red frame hangs on the white wall under a ruchnik, a handmade embroidered towel. The painting depicts 2 swans turning to each other and swimming side by side in a blue pond. White lilies and reeds grow in the water. Fir trees and birches are visible on the far bank. Under the painting hangs a small embroidery in a newer white frame. It shows a blue-eyed kitten with a pink bow resting in the grass.
Moscow was built from this stone. Bamba felt a certain peace and tranquility, and even love. But then came the war with the Nazis, and her train driver was drafted into the army.
A horizontal color photo. A large embroidered painting hangs in an old wooden frame. It depicts a scene with a pair of swans, almost the same as in the painted picture. A horizontal color photo. A large embroidered painting in a blue wooden frame hangs under a ruchnik. It depicts 3 young people sailing in a boat. A guy wearing a white and pink shirt, blue pants, and a blue hat sits on one side of the boat. He paddles and smiles at the 2 girls sitting opposite him. The girls are dressed in simple, brightly colored dresses with long skirts. One of them holds a basket of fruit, and the other one a basket with flowers. The latter leans her head on her friend's shoulder as if listening to the young man with interest. Across the river, fields stretched out, and at the edge of them, a house with wooden beams on the facade hides among the tall trees.
So Baba went back to the cramped cottage. She married an old soldier who had caught yellow fever in the 1930s while serving in Abkhazia. He was kind and frail, and because of his disability, he was not called to the war.
A portrait of the great-grandmother with her first love, in the negative. On the light yellow wall between 2 windows with white curtains hangs an old small photo in a wooden frame. It shows 2 portraits put together against a light background. One of a young and slightly more fat Katerina, and the other of a man in his 20s in a Soviet military uniform. The smiling Katerina is wearing a black dress with a white collar. Her black hair is gathered in a bun of braids at the back of her head. The man next to her has an oval face, thin eyebrows, light eyes, a rather small nose, and full lips. His hair is shaved short. He looks calmly at the camera. 3 parts of an old black and white photo. A large family is posing outside by a tree. Old Katerina stands in the middle, hugging little Andrei from behind. Her hair is tied in a bun. She is wearing a simple dress with small flowers and a sharp collar. Her husband is posing off to the side, a thin, tall man with thick hair pulled back. He is wearing a black shirt and trousers with a belt. Both are looking seriously into the lens. There are also 2 smiling young women with babies in their arms and 2 men in their 30s.
But when the Nazis came, they herded the woman and all the others still in the village into an old wooden church. They then set the church on fire. Miraculously, Baba escaped through a crack in the wall, but the rest of the villagers were burned alive. After the war, she worked at a flax factory, but it was not enough to keep the house going. So every evening, she came home after dark, carrying a bag of defective flax she'd salvaged from the factory. Until midnight, she'd spin the flax on an old wooden spinning wheel and fall asleep sitting upright. At 5 in the morning, the foreman knocked on the window, and off she'd go to the factory again.
2 black and white videos from the Soviet era. A city street from different angles. Between a round fountain and an angular building with a slogan on the roof, a monument to Vladimir Lenin on a 3-stage pedestal looms over the street. A 9-story building peeps out from behind the trees in the distance. 3 black and white videos from the Soviet era. In the first one, a black-haired man in his 50s wearing a suit gives a speech. He is holding a piece of paper, but he is not reading. The man resembles Leonid Brezhnev. In the second recording, a crowd of workers claps in the street. In the third, a broadly smiling Nikita Khrushchev of about 45 years old shows the audience something like a diploma. All 3 videos are shown one after the other against a horizontal color photo of a flower bed with orange lilies and pink hydrangeas.
After 1978, Grandma was able to get a little more sleep. The foreman no longer went from house to house. Once a week, she could eat a can of condensed milk or a bar of chocolate. It was a time of peace and quiet. My mother, when she was 16 years old, she left the village and got a job in construction in Kazakhstan.
2 parts of an old photo. One is positive, the other is negative. The photo shows Andrei's mother in her 50s. She poses on a balcony or some kind of elevation against a background of dense trees, smiling and leaning on a wrought iron fence with both hands. The woman has short, side-swept hair. She is dressed in a thin, floral blouse, a calf-length skirt, and high-heeled shoes. At her feet is an elegant teapot with a floral pattern.
She believed in communism and wanted to be useful to the Soviet people. It was in Kazakhstan she first heard about the Soviet camps. She heard the horrific story of the Kenger uprising, how the prisoners in one of the camps revolted, and how they were brutally murdered. People told the story to each other in whispers, looking around fearful of being heard. My mother stopped believing in communism. She continued to believe only in classical music, poetry, and the human soul.
An old color photo. A dark-haired girl with bangs and a braid poses crouched on the ground. She is wearing a high-colored sweater and a warm dark jacket. Her face is obscured by a video superimposed on the photo in a graphic editor. The video starts with a black and white newspaper showing the beginning of an article. Translated from Russian, the text reads, "For achieving high results in the socialist competition in honor of the centenary of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin's birth, a team is being rewarded." To the left of the text is a sketchy portrait of Lenin. Then a street crowd of Soviet citizens appears in the frame. People smile and clap at the man behind the podium. The man also claps. His face is not seen. Then the video fades out, revealing the face of the girl in the photo. It is Andrei's mother. She looks to the side, smiling slightly.
Fate took her to Lviv, where she worked as a meteorological engineer, raising and feeding 3 children entirely herself, because she had divorced her husband. He, by the way, continued to live in the same apartment because there was no money to rent another.
A horizontal negative. A small courtyard photographed from the highest 4th or 5th floor of a residential building. The house is old and looks typical for a Western Ukrainian city with its thick yellow walls, a low red roof, mostly large windows, and spiral staircases leading to the entrance doors of each apartment. The building is completely abandoned. The walls are chipped, the roof is rusty, and between the plastic windows there are glass ones in such tattered wooden frames that, if not for the plants on the windowsill, it would seem that the residents had long since left. In the distance, the outskirts of the city are visible on the horizon. Then 2 other photos are being superimposed on the negative one by one. In the first picture, Andrei's young mother poses leaning against a tree. She is wearing a knee-length, long-sleeved checkered dress. The second one shows her husband. He stands in front of a blackboard, wearing an apron and holding a tray of plates with a smile. The man has dark short hair, a triangular face, and light eyes.
Almost every day I was woken by their arguments, since they were forced to use the same kitchen. Still, we lived in 2 rooms, not a single communal one, like some of my friends. So, in general, I felt peaceful and calm.
A horizontal negative. The photo shows the Center for Creativity of Children, the youth of Galicia in Lviv. It is a large-scale 3-story building built in 1984. It consists of several concrete blocks. The central one has 3 entrance doors with stairs leading to them. The entire second floor is occupied by panoramic windows, and in front of them is a solid balcony with low wrought iron fence. The 3rd floor protrudes in the middle and has rounded corners. The protruding part has 3 huge windows that resemble portholes. A wide tiled road leads to the building, lined with fir trees.
And read Dickens on the warm tiles. It's just my nature. I'm an optimist. And my sister is not very much. Later, she went crazy because she believed she had the right to a normal life. But she did not, and it was not. In the end, she could bear no more and went to live in a fictional world.
The same flower bed as the one in the background of the videos with the USSR politicians. In a few seconds, a rectangular vertical part of a black and white photo is superimposed on it. It depicts a smiling Andre's sister, a black-haired girl with straight bangs and narrow, light eyes. She poses near a tree in a wooden, checkered scarf. Then the photo of Andre's sister also turns negative.
In the 1990s, there was very little money for food and clothing. Since then, I've been in the habit of buying most of my clothes in second-hand shops. Shops like these allowed me to buy the clothes I liked instead of my brother's old Soviet jacket.
5 parts of an old black and white photo. Older men in checkered shirts or suits chat at a table in the rural yard. On the table there are 2 almost empty bottles, bread, vegetables, fish, soup, and other homemade dishes. Next to it stands Andre, about 6 years old, in a jacket with a sharp collar and shiny buttons. The boy has a black eye. He looks gloomily at the camera with his hands in his pants pocket. Behind him, laundry dries on a clothesline. One can also see a log wall of a house or shed and a wooden fence covered with ivy. Someone walks behind it.
I saved bottles to find the money to buy clothes in these seconds. At least vodka was cheap then. We students drank it on an empty stomach, smoking cheap cigarettes. And ever since, I've had a stomach ulcer. It was normal in the Faculty of Philosophy where I studied to drink vodka on an empty stomach.
A horizontal negative. 4 girls of about 17 talk outside at a wooden table. Glasses and plastic caps in front of them are filled with Coca-Cola, coffee, or cognac. There is also an iPhone and several pieces of a stapled A4 sheet on the table. One of the girls holds a cigarette. A horizontal negative. In a room with a high ceiling, blackboards, and a speaker, 2 tables stand side by side. 2 young people sit at each table. Andre and another guy at one, and a guy and a girl at the other. The guy next to Andre shows something with his hands up. The others watch him attentively. The parts of the photo that have people in them are then highlighted with vertical rectangles and alternately become positive for a few seconds.
But in our new state of Ukraine, for some reason, we all thought we now have the right and privilege to peace and tranquility and dignity. So we went to political rallies and protests. First, Ukraine without Kuchma, and then the first Maidan. All we needed was peace, tranquility, and dignity. We just wanted that right. Then, the second Maidan. Hundreds of peaceful protesters shot dead in the streets of Kiev.
A horizontal negative. 3 girls read books on the street. One sits on a chair, the other 2 on the curb. A guy stands next to them, his head out of frame. He holds a glass bottle with both hands. Below on the asphalt are Coca-Cola and a chocolate bar. Some parts of the photo alternately become positive for a few seconds, then the whole photo becomes positive.
But it only gave us a week. Peace and tranquility after the victory of the second Maidan lasted literally just a week. For that 1 week, I lived in the belief that we were finally worthy of the right to peace and tranquility. Then the Russians landed in Crimea. For 8 years, we listened daily to the news of dead Ukrainian soldiers. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But we believed. I believed that it was all a terrible mistake.
Positive photo of a flower bed with lilies and hydrangeas. As the speaker says, Then the Russians landed in the Crimea. The photo becomes negative in vertical rectangular sections starting from the left edge.
That we really do have the right to peace and tranquility and dignity. That in the end, will all end at last.
A horizontal color photo. It shows man's feet above a raging river as if he sits on a cliff taking pictures of what is below. The man is wearing green pants and white sneakers. As the speaker says, the Great War came. The right half of the photo turns negative.
The horrific deaths of thousands of civilians. So far, thousands. Well, on the one hand, it's a curse. I know sooner or later my house will burn down like my great-grandmother Katerina's house, burned down in the 1910s.
A vertical photo with the left half negative and the right half positive. House number 8 on Vasil Stus Street in Lviv is a shabby apartment building built between the First and Second World Wars. 2 Ukrainian letters are spray-painted on the high entrance door. Yi look like the Latin I, but with 2 dots, and Ye looking like the Latin C, with a short horizontal line starting from the middle of the curve. These are the letters that distinguish the Ukrainian alphabet from the Russian one.
It has not burned down yet, but these days I have said goodbye to it dozens of times, and goodbye to everything that is dear to me, everything that I will not be able to take with me when Russian tanks come to Lviv. It's like seeing it burn dozens of times. On the other hand, who actually gives anyone any rights?
A horizontal negative. A room with wooden panels and a panoramic photo of Lviv on the walls. A smiling group sits around the table. A man in a cowboy hat, a man drinking from a bottle, a woman with glasses pressing her hands to her chest, and a curly-haired man in a hooded sweatshirt. All of them are 30 to 40 years old. On the table are small snacks and a bottle of cognac. A horizontal negative. A cafe on an evening street in Lviv. People are dressed for warm weather, drink, and talk at the tables near them.
Where does the privilege of having peace and tranquility come from? I do not know. If Ukraine survives, maybe I will have an answer to this question. Right now, I do not. I stand now in some darkness, next to my sister and brother, next to friends, next to my deceased mother, grandmother, grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-grandmother, next to all Ukrainians who died in this and other wars and during periods of peace and tranquility.
A vertical negative. The same evening street. An old carpet is spread out on the sidewalk and on the cobblestone road. A young man and a girl are sitting on it smoking. Next to them are a large rolled-up paper sheet, a cloth bag, a phone, a camera bag, an energy drink, and some other small items. 2 men have a relaxed conversation a little further away. A vertical negative. In an abandoned, unfinished hall, a spotlight is on. It is directed at several people dressed in black and white. They stand in the row, bowing, clapping, and holding flowers. Opposite them, a cheering audience of several dozen young people claps. The photo of the family at the fence. The part with the grandmother and Andrei is highlighted with a wide positive stripe. In a moment, everything but that part disappears.
They don't know, and I don't know. We just stare at the black darkness in front of us. The light of the house where we were born, consumed by flames which do not illuminate the darkness in any way. How can we finally dispel this darkness? Can we?
The photo of Andrei in the gazebo, negative. It is shown for a couple of seconds, then cropped into a square in the middle so that only Andrei is visible. The square gets smaller until it disappears.
What to write next, I just don't know. Here's my list of books about the war. I give it to you. The Iliad, The Song of the Nibelung, The House at the Edge of the Night, The Good Soldier's Fight, The Tale of Igor's Campaign, War and Peace, Quiet Flows the Dawn, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Song of Roland, The Little Prince, And the Stars Are Quiet Here, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, The Unwomanly Face of War, An Oral History of Women in World War II, Vasily Torkin, The Fate of a Man, Gone with the Wind, The White Guard, The Lord of the Rings, For Whom the Bell Tolls, The Slaughterhouse Five, Henry VI, The Quiet American, Dr. Zhivago, The Empire of the Sun, Gravity's Rainbow, The Three Musketeers, The Route, Rob Roy, People with Weapons, Testament of Death, Paradise's End, The Legend of Till Eulenspiegel, Cold Mountain.
A horizontal color video, a large installation in the park. On a black platform, there are white letters approximately 1 meter high that form the inscription, I love Miropol. Instead of the word love, there's a red heart. The camera flies through it, revealing a panorama of the sea. Then a sunny, crowded square is in the frame. People in summer clothes sit at tables near food stalls or walk around. A bearded man is waving a large national flag. Blue and yellow ribbons hang from the trees. Afterwards, a street scene is shown with children dancing in folk costumes. In the evening, an open-air concert, a crowded square where fountain jets with colorful lighting form a large tunnel, and the inscription, I love Miropol, is projected onto the ground nearby. Then there is a panorama of the city and its surroundings in the daytime, the sea, seagulls, and sailing sails.
I romance. From here to eternity. The Kite Runner. This list will soon be significantly expanded. I'm already somehow on my own.
Джону дали зброю. Голі та мертві. Завтра була війна. Неспокійний. Містер Мічман, Горнблауер. Передислокація. Вбивчі ангели, Матерхорн. Прощавай зброя. Тонка червона лінія. Віддаю цей список вам. Скоро він значно поповниться, а мені вже якось все одно.
And then to the sound of a siren, a ruined city, a bleeding pregnant woman on a stretcher, a soldier talking to a crying boy, a pregnant woman in front of a bombed-out maternity ward, people sleeping on top of each other, a female doctor in tears, a couple running with the man holding a bloody blanket from under which children's hands poke out, a young woman sitting on a chair in a hospital corridor, bent over in desperate crying, with a man crouching next to her, holding her hand and leaning his head against her shoulder. And again, countless bombed-out houses and cars. Finally, the screen goes black.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here is what she said to me. Que sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera. What will be, will be. Now I have children of my own. They ask their mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? I tell them tenderly. Que sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera. What will be, will be. Que sera. Це хороша пісня, заспокоює.
A blue square on a black background. Song lines appear on it written in italicized yellow letters. The lyrics read as follows. When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she says to me. Que sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. What will be, will be. Now I have children of my own. They ask their mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? I tell them tenderly, que sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera. What will be, will be. Que sera. Then the blue square slowly dissolves into blackness. Credits. Produced by Noah Berkstead-Breen. Directed by Miro Klotchko and Anatolij Tatrenko. Voiced by Andriy Bondarenko and Noah Berkstead-Breen. All pictures were kindly given by Andriy Bondarenko. Video footage of Miropol was taken from the Telegram channel of SBU, Security Service of Ukraine. Film footage was taken from the Urban Media Archive of the Center for Urban History, collection of Live Regional TV Company. This play was commissioned by Sputnik Theater Company as part of the World Readings Project 2022.